Welcome back. You're watching Arise America. Joining us now to discuss some of our top stories is Arise analyst Rotimi Kade. He joins us now via Zoom from New York. Hi Rotimi, thank you very much for joining Arise America.
You're welcome.
So let's meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Now, this meeting has raised so many eyebrows globally. The optics are striking. President Trump's decision to meet with Vladimir Putin as opposed to President Zelensky. And Ukraine's response so far has been anything but positive. How do you interpret that choice and what message does it send to both Kiev and the rest of the world?
Well, the kind of signal is sending to Kiev, it means that there's absolutely no level playing field to even start with. If the president of the United States will meet with Putin without, Zelensky also on the table, they already are having this skepticism about what the meeting is going to be all about, the outcome of the meeting. And that's why you've been seeing all this outburst, this outrage, from Kiev that whatever, whatever the outcome is going to be, if it's not going to be in favor of Ukraine or perhaps the conditions that they've given for peace to reign between both countries, they're definitely not going to accept that. So there's this palpable doubt and skepticism that's been, hovering over the possibility of eventual peace treaty, the so-called peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine.
Absolutely. It does come off quite strange, doesn't it? But President Donald Trump must have some kind of thought process behind this decision. Why do you think he's choosing to do this in this way?
Well, first of all, I think President Trump has a big admiration for President Putin. And he's more like the elephant in the room. So he believes that he has a higher, so to speak, political power compared to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. So he, in his own wisdom, feels like, if I can talk through with Putin, I can come back to, the lesser evil, so to speak, Zelensky, and we can issue this out. Or in some cases, some analysts did say that he doesn't have so much respect for Zelensky because Zelensky is asking for his help in defeating Russia. So at this point, Trump is going ahead to have this meeting with Putin, seeing how he can penetrate and kind of pressure him to give to cease fire, to give him some sort of credit in terms of how this war is going to end anytime soon. But again, this is absolutely very important. Whatever the intention of the White House is, we don't care. A lot of people don't really care until perhaps maybe something productive is going to come out of it. Whether you want to meet Zelensky first or you want to meet Putin first, it doesn't matter the lineup of meetings that you're going to have. The most important thing is the fact that is there going to be peace at the end of the day?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Is this meeting going to be productive? Is this some sort of strategic way of sort of dividing the troops and conquering them bit by bit? Well, we'll see. What do you think, though, about Zelensky's response? Now, he's responded saying that no decision will be made in his absence. Is he right to view this approach with such skepticism?
Yes, he is. He's the president of a sovereign nation. So nobody's going to come in and just wheel out the position of his people. So he's right in some ways, trying to defend his people and the sovereignty of, his own country. So as so many people have said, some skeptics have actually said, hey, perhaps maybe the White House is trying to make those decisions and whatever they come up with, they're just going to present it to him. and is just going to accept whatever the outcome of that meeting between the US and Russia is. And I think is trying to make his point across and saying, hey, we're not just going to accept anything that you say. And it does seem that Russia continues to shift the goalposts, at every point in time. Now we heard part of the meeting that Russian President Vladimir Putin had with the U.S. envoy to Russia, Steve Witkoff, last week, was that the Russia wants the part of the region of Ukraine called the Donbas region, which sounds, as much as it sounds ridiculous, is also, something that needs to be studied, and why Russia actually wants, that region in particular for peace to reign.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we are agreed that this meeting, this peace talk, whatever we want to call it, must result in some sort of solutions. In the event that this decision of bypassing Ukraine backfires, do you see this backfiring is what I meant to ask.
Well, first of all, to your first question, if it backfires, it means that we're back to square one, ground zero, where it all started. Then they have to be a new phase of negotiations that will be going on. And perhaps maybe this time the US is not going to be leading that negotiation between these two countries. Maybe other, countries or group of countries will come together to lead that negotiation. That's going to be very dangerous for both countries, because they're still going to be having bombings going on, deaths, casualties are still going to be rising, and we're not going to have, an end to this senseless, war between these two countries. But again, the White House has not said that they're not going to have a meeting with Zelensky. But first of all, I think they want to see who's the most difficult person in this whole equation. And it looks like Vladimir Putin is the one that needs to be talked to first. And I think they're taking on with that initiative.
Well, I think at this point it's who gets angriest, because now Zelensky is seemingly quite upset. He could, it could go either way, basically. So critics are arguing that engaging Putin at this stage, while Russian forces are advancing on multiple fronts, risks legitimizing his military actions. How do you think this meeting might affect the credibility of the US foreign policy, both with its allies and with Ukraine itself?
Well, first of all, this meeting does not preclude the ongoing advancement of Russia in Ukraine and the bombing of kids and children, kids and women and, the vulnerables in the society. And I think that's where I, actually I have a problem with it if such parameters cannot be set. For instance, if before this meeting, if President Trump says that, we need to cease fire while this meeting is going on, then after the meeting you can go back to your normal thing, but that exactly is not what the case is right now. So Putin, on the other hand, is coming from the position of strength. And I've said this repeatedly, that Russia do not want to be seen as weak in this whole conundrum. They want to be seen as, as they are the superpowers, or one of the superpowers in the world. And they have capabilities that can totally obliterate Ukraine. So, but on the other hand, this doesn't doesn't shine the light on, equity, justice, and fairness when it comes to resolving matters between these two nations.
Mm-hmm. According to Western officials, Putin's plan presented to Trump's envoy in Moscow this week would see Ukraine cede Crimea and the Russian-occupied Donbas region, like you mentioned, in exchange for a ceasefire. Now, the proposal would freeze current battle lines, but other terms remain unclear. Could a territory swap proposal ever be compatible with international law?
Well, first of all, I think it's is in contrast with what the UN Charter said. Article 4, Sub 2 says that no country has the monopoly of, annexing, another country. That's against international law, against UN Charter. But we've seen Russia did that in 2014 when they annexed Crimea, a region of Ukraine. And with this new proposal on the table, it looks pretty much that they also put in Donbas region, which includes Luhansk and Donetsk, very productive regions, the eastern Ukraine, where you have most of the industrial estates, and subverting the will of the people who are not, Russian. We know that there's a high, relativity between, those regions. We have traditional Russian-speaking population within those regions, but they are far less to the Ukrainians who live in those regions. And perhaps maybe one of the reasons why Russia, in the first place in 2014, annexed Crimea, because they believe that the vast majority of the population in Crimea are Russian, and of course they've cried out for help from the Russian Federation as to how how they've been treated in Ukraine, which of course led to that annexation. And we're now seeing the same, scenario cosplaying in this particular issue that we were talking about. But unfortunately, Zelensky said, if that is the major thing on the table for Russia for peace to reign, then it means that they're not going to have it, because Ukraine is not ready to cede again any part of its country to another country, especially Russia.
And I think they have every right to do that. Now, beyond the headlines, there's the question of what success would look like here. In your opinion, what would be the signs that this meeting has achieved something meaningful? And conversely, what are the warning signals that it could do more harm than good?
Well, the warning signal for me is if the U.S. Just unilaterally force down the throats of Ukraine, whatever the outcome of this meeting is, without due consultations, that will look pretty much bad for Ukraine, and it also going to look very bad also for the United States, because the world will see that this has not been a fair meeting between both countries. And of course, Ukraine would definitely seek alternative to this. The good side of this, which I would like to point out, is the fact that when you look at what both leaders are saying, Russia and of course Ukraine, Vladimir Putin has made it very clear that he's willing to meet with Zelensky. If he has said that, number of times, I don't know why, it couldn't be part of this meeting. It's going to be a great optics for the United States to have both leaders on their side, and have this meeting. Since Russian President Putin has made it clear before now that he's going to meet with Zelensky. So that would be, on a fair, pedestal that the world can see and say, you know what, this is a good signal that, that could lead to something very meaningful.
All right, let's switch gears a bit now. You are coincidentally in New York. I don't know if you watched our first segment where there's reports of 3 people being shot at Times Square. Now, Times Square is one of the most visited places in the world. I mean, it never sleeps. People from all around the world are frequently at Times Square. What does it say about public safety in America when even such an iconic location isn't spared from gun violence?
Well, it's actually surprising to see that, and this is like this is a second reported gun violence in Times Square or New York City area in the last 2 to 3 weeks from now. This is very strange. We don't experience that in the city. However, when you look at the security that's been put in place, by the city and by extension by the state, you have over 25,000 cameras. Half of it facial recognition cameras, so they can capture and see, talk, see, your identity. They can actually analyze, where you come from and all that, which Amnesty International actually frown against, that you don't need such, very high sensitive, cameras in those areas. And, analysts keep asking those questions that despite the huge investment, billions of dollars that has been put into the security infrastructures in the city, why are we having this? And this comes like, back to back, considering, what also happened sometimes around last year when one of the insurance CEO was killed right there in New York City. So it tells you a lot that there's a lot of security lapses within the city. It's not good for the tourism industry of New York, because New York is one of the most, New York City, especially Times Square, is one of the most visited city or places in the world, if not number one. But again, what is the intention of this booming industry, or what does it pertain for this city that's never sleeps? Yeah, I mean, you go outside New York, you always find people, you always find restaurant that's open 24 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You always find transportation to take it from one point to the other. And we continue to have this. I think this should be, the security alert should be raised to perhaps maybe the maximum, to see how people are able to sneak in, some of these small arms and sometimes assault rifle into the city that has never experienced that in so many years.
It's truly quite worrisome that incidents like this keep happening across the country. When will enough truly be enough? And what will it take for the US government to take decisive actions to finally put an end to gun violence?
Well, I think it's a very touchy topic. It's very, very delicate topic to even talk about, because no matter how you look at it, if you decide to take guns out, which the Democratic Party has been championing, it is seen as being against, the constitutional rights of citizens to actually bear arms. On the other hand, you want to expand the background checks so people who can own a gun, then also you're going to be touching on, again, the constitutional rights of people, or whether to be in certain places, or, speak out, or, there's so many things that it's really tangling or perhaps frustrating gun violence in the United States. And it's only Congress that can actually make or amend those laws. Unfortunately, Congress has not been able to live up to that expectations. And I think, hope that in the future there's going to be some sort of consensus between all parties to see how this gun violence can be a thing of the past.
I certainly get the sense that it's such a complicated bureaucratic process to put the guns away, for lack of a better word. Well, Rotimi, do stay safe, and I thank you very much for joining Aright America.